The sky was a dusky orange as the last rays of sunlight clung to the towering buildings of the city. The restaurant terrace, reserved only for the elite, was slowly emptying. Waiters in white jackets and gloves moved swiftly, scraping untouched delicacies into black plastic bags. Juicy steaks barely touched, golden soufflés left half-eaten, entire baskets of freshly baked bread thrown away as if they were nothing. In the narrow alley just behind the restaurant, a pair of cautious eyes watched. A little girl, no more than 10, stood with bare feet planted on the cold pavement. Her name was Lena. Her cheeks were hollow, her coat too thin, and her tangled curls were plastered to her forehead with sweat and dust. She clutched her belly as it grumbled for the third time in an hour. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. She stepped forward carefully, waiting for the perfect moment. When the waiters turned away and dashed to the trash bins, her small hands reaching for the warm paper bag sitting on top. "Hey, get away from there," a deep voice bellowed. She froze. A security guard had spotted her. His boots thudded toward her angrily. Startled, Lena dropped the bag and turned to run, but collided into someone. A tall figure, broad-shouldered, towering over her like a skyscraper. She stumbled back, heart pounding. The man looked down, adjusting his designer coat. His expression was stone cold. "Watch it," he said sharply, brushing invisible dust from his sleeve. Lena's lips trembled. She was about to apologize, then froze again when she noticed the small boy holding the man's hand. A little boy, about 6 years old, with golden hair and round eyes. He stared at her, but said nothing. His gaze was distant. "Hello. I wasn't trying to steal. I just—" Lena started, her voice shaking. The man raised an eyebrow. His sharply tailored suit and polished shoes made it clear he wasn't just anyone. This was Alexander Rowe, the billionaire CEO of Rowe Tech, ruthless in business, unforgiving in charity. He looked her up and down with mild irritation. "You're on private property. Go beg somewhere else." She stood straighter, even though she was trembling. "Please, I don't want money. I just want your leftovers. That's all." He turned slightly, about to wave her off, but something in her eyes made him pause. It wasn't just hunger. It was something older, wiser, like she'd seen more pain than a child ever should. Then, daringly, she pointed at the silent boy beside him. "If I make your son talk, will you give me the leftovers?" Alexander blinked, then laughed, short and cruel. "Excuse me?" I said. Lena repeated, steady now. "If I can make your son talk, will you give me your leftovers?" The security guard scoffed. "What kind of—" Alexander raised a hand to silence him. Amusement flickered across his face. "He hasn't said a word in a year. Not to me. Not to doctors. Not even to his nanny. You think you could just show up and fix that for a plate of scraps?" Lena nodded. "I don't want money. I just know how it feels. When someone you love disappears and everything goes quiet inside." Alexander studied her. This filthy, barefoot girl, standing her ground like a soldier. Ridiculous. And yet, his son, Oliver, was staring at her, not looking away, still silent, but somehow alert. Alexander smirked. "Fina, entertain me. If he talks, the leftovers and whatever else you want from that trash are yours." Lena gave a small smile. And just like that, she knelt down in front of the boy, not with arrogance or pity, but with gentle curiosity. Alexander folded his arms, expecting failure. He had no idea that the impossible was already beginning. Lena didn't try to impress Oliver with fancy words or adult questions. She didn't kneel and speak slowly like the therapist did, or try to bribe him with toys the way his tutors had. Instead, she just sat on the cold concrete across from him, cross-legged, resting her elbows on her knees like she'd done this 100 times before. The wind tugged gently at the ends of her frayed sleeves. Her bare toes peeked out from beneath the hem of her pants, caked in dirt and cold from the pavement. Still, she ignored it. Her eyes scanned the ground until she spotted a leaf, perfectly shaped and crisp. She picked it up and, without saying a word, began folding it gently with her fingers. Oliver watched silently, curious. She folded the leaf into a small, wobbly boat and placed it in a puddle nearby. It bobbed gently on the water. She smiled faintly, then picked up a flat stone and scratched at the pavement beside her, drawing slow lines. A house. A crooked tree. A girl with wild curly hair. A cat next to her feet. Then she looked at Oliver and handed him the stone without saying a word. For a moment, he just stared. No one ever handed him things without giving instructions, without expecting something, without pressure. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. Alexander, standing a few meters away with his assistant, narrowed his eyes. "Is he drawing?" the assistant asked. Alexander didn't answer. He was too focused, barely breathing. Oliver scratched carefully at the concrete. A circle, a stick figure with slouched shoulders, a big, drooping sun in the sky. Next to it, a smaller stick figure sitting alone beneath a tree. Its face was sad, 2 dots for eyes, a little downer line for a mouth. Lena looked at it quietly, then at him. She didn't smile this time. Instead, she whispered, barely audible, "Is he lonely?" Oliver didn't look up, but he gave the smallest of nods. Lena's voice was soft, like the breeze. "Mine was too. My brother. He used to draw all the time when he got sick. We didn't have money for doctors. He stopped drawing the day before he left." Oliver's hand paused. He finally looked up at her. She kept her gaze on the ground. "I got scared after that. Still am. I don't like sleeping. I think too much." For the longest time, nothing happened. The sounds of the city buzzed in the background. Horns honking, heels clicking on sidewalks, laughter spilling from expensive tables above them. Then Oliver did something no one, not even his father, had seen in a year. He reached out and touched Lena's hand. She looked up, surprised. His lips parted slightly. "I'm scared too," he whispered, his voice hoarse, as if unused for ages. From the corner, Alexander felt his heart stop. He took a step forward, his expression frozen between disbelief and raw emotion. Lena squeezed Oliver's fingers gently. "It's okay," she said. "We don't have to be scared alone anymore." Oliver blinked, then did something else unexpected. He leaned in and wrapped his arms around her in a tight hug. From where he stood, Alexander's mouth opened, but no words came. His assistant was already wiping tears from his eyes. This little girl, this dirty, poor, hungry girl, had done what doctors, counselors, and experts could not. She didn't heal him with science. She reached him with pain, with honesty. And Alexander, for the first time in a year, felt the sting of tears in his own eyes. Not because he was sad, but because for the first time, he saw his son alive again. A warm golden glow lit up the private terrace of the restaurant, long after the last guest had left. The once formal space had been transformed into something completely new. Not extravagant, not stiff, but inviting, like a family picnic hidden behind velvet curtains. A round table sat in the center, covered with a spotless white cloth. Fresh flowers had been brought in from the kitchen, tucked into a little vase at the center. Around the table were 3 chairs, 2 small and 1 large. Lena sat in one of them, her eyes wide with wonder. Before her was a spread she could only dream of: buttery mashed potatoes, soft rolls still steaming, grilled vegetables drizzled with golden oil, juicy roast chicken carved into perfect slices. Next to her plate sat a tall glass of real orange juice. Not powdered, not from a plastic packet, but fresh, cold, and shining like sunlight in a glass. Across from her sat Oliver, who had not stopped smiling since the moment he spoke. Between bites, he looked up at her with admiration. "You draw better than me," he said through a mouthful of bread. Lena laughed, a high, delighted sound. "No way. You made that tree look real." Oliver beamed. "I was going to show Mama," but his smile faded slightly. Lena gently touched his hand. She saw it anyway. "I bet she's proud." Oliver nodded, and this time, when he smiled, it reached his eyes. Alexander sat in the larger chair, watching the two of them from across the table. The man who had once towered like an ice mountain now looked small. Not in stature, but in ego. His suit jacket was off, sleeves rolled to his elbows, his expression softer than anyone had seen in years. He still didn't quite know what had happened. How this girl, this ragged, barefoot girl who had asked for scraps, had cracked through the concrete wall around his son's heart, or how she'd managed to chip away at his own in the process. "Lena," he said finally.